Hello friends, and welcome back to Swift Lessons for routine number 10 of my solo blues guitar series. In today's session, I'm going to be sharing with you over a dozen licks and tricks for jamming over top of a 12-bar blues in the key of E. Now you can gain access to the entire series and also my official tablature for all of these routines at patreon.com/swiftlessons. I encourage you to become a member there and gain access to a library of extra resources for all my popular YouTube guitar lessons. Now let's get started with a full demonstration of the routine and I'll break everything down. 1, 2, 3, and... Okay, close look at the fretboard and also my pick in hand. Getting started with our intro turnaround. Just like our other routines, we're in standard tuning, key of E. It's gonna sound like this real slow. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Okay, let's break that down. Okay, following along using your tablature at patreon.com/swiftlessons. We're getting started sliding up to the 4th fret of the G string. And we're gonna count off a 1, and 2, and 3, and just like that, sliding from 2 up to 4, in between the 3rd and 4th beat. Then we're gonna go to the 3rd fret of the B string, back to the 4th fret of the G string, and then back to the 3rd fret of the B string again. So, that's a really kind of cliche way of jumping into a turnaround or a lick in the blues genre. Alright, then we're going to play this really cool descending line. Okay, so I'm going to be plucking the B and the high E strings together as I hammer from 3 to 5. You gotta really arch your finger so that way you don't block that high E string. Alright, then we're gonna go high E string, B string. Alright, then we're gonna go down to the 3rd fret, and then pick B, E, B. Going down to the 2nd fret, B string, strike both strings together, then just the high E string, so far you have. Alright, then I'm back to the B string before going down to the 1st fret and playing B string, E string, B string. Put all that together, we have double. Alright, then that finishes up a measure. The next measure is going to begin with the open strings, B and high E string together. Then we're going to play this really cool kind of representation of the B7 chord. Okay, sliding up to the 4th fret of the G string again, but this time with my index finger. Then grabbing the high E string, 7th fret with the pinky. Okay, then I'm going to play an arpeggio of the B7 chord shape. Okay, so just 4, 4, 5. Alright, then we're going to strum through that B7 chord shape 3 times, and I might include the D string once I do. You put all that together, we have the entire turnaround. Slide away on the last one. Then jump into your 12 bar where we're going to have a bunch of really useful licks. Okay, excellent work everybody. You have that turnaround down. Now it's time to jump into the 12-bar blues. We're kicking things off with 4 measures of E dominant 7. And we're going to be employing a couple of different licks and a very useful walk-in transition to the 4 chord. Nice and slow. Oh, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and... Okay, and that'll get you to the 4 chord. Let's break down those 4 measures. Okay, breaking down that first lick over E7. Again, it sounds like this real slow. Classic blues lick, starting off with the low E string and the G string together as I hammer down to that G string 1st fret. You'll see me hold the E7 chord shape as I play that. It's not completely necessary. Alright, then after that you're going to play the high E string open for 1 end. It's very important to count as you learn these licks. Okay, then we're going to slide up to the 4th fret of the G string. Let your thumb on your picking hand lead the charge. Alright, that was 4, 3, 4, just like we did in our intro turnaround. Alright, then we're going to play the high E string open, and I'm using my ring finger to pluck that string. I like to hold that out just a little bit longer than expected, then go to the B string 3rd fret, and then back to the G string 4th fret. Alright, once I've gotten to that G string 4th fret, I'm going to slide down to the 2nd fret of the G string. So that sounds like this. And then I'm going to pull off to the open G string, and then resolve to the 2nd fret of the D string, that E note. You put all that together, we have. To finish up the lick. Okay, so that's the first measure. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and Alright, now the next lick is going to start off the exact same way. Alright, you're going to stop there on that G string 4th fret, and then we're just going to change the last 2 beats. So that was high E string 3, 0, 0 on the B string, 3rd fret of the B string with some vibrato or maybe a little bit of a bend, and then back to the high E string open to resolve. Okay, so now we have our first 2 licks and our first 2 measures. You put them together and it sounds like this. Okay, for measure number 3, we're just going to repeat the first lick, but we're just going to do a slight variation to it. Instead of doing the hammer, we're just going to play open low E string, and then the open B string, and then continue the lick as it was. Okay, so measure number 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and Okay, if you have those 3 licks down, you're ready to move on to the walk-in transition to the 4 chord A7. It's going to sound like this real slow. Alright, at full speed. Okay, marching along up to the 4 chord. So, do that hammer-on trick again. Open B string. Then we're going to fret. It's really, really cool. This is actually a minor 6 chord, F sharp minor 6. Alright, so it's going to be the low E string 2nd fret with the middle finger. Then we're going to play 1 and 2 on the D and G string. That's what you call a devil's interval, or a tritone. It's a very intense sound. Alright, after I've done those 2 notes, I'm going to play the low E string open and transition up 1/2 step. Just play the bass and then the treble. then do the same thing on the 4th fret. So we have really cool walk-in transition there. Okay, playing through those 4 measures of E7, walking up to the 4 chord. It's gonna sound like this one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, and okay, now we're ready to move on to line number 2 of the 12-bar section. Okay, very good everyone, making short work of this advanced 12-bar routine. Real quick, before we move on, I just want to give you some tips in terms of your fingerstyle technique. Some of you might be wondering, which fingers am I supposed to be using as I go through these different licks? Well, generally speaking, there's no set system. You want to mix things up and definitely experiment. What works for one lick may not work for another lick. Now, with that said, I'm going to give you a couple of ideas that I use which may or may not work for you. If I'm doing a lick that has notes on 2 different strings, generally speaking, I'm going to use my thumb and my middle finger for that. But if it's a lick that has 3 strings involved, I might do one of 2 things. Use my middle finger and my ring finger. That's probably my go-to, but sometimes I might use index finger and middle finger. Something like that. Okay, that'll be up to you. Both of those are appropriate. Now, one other tip. If I'm doing something like I did at the beginning of measure 1, where I'm kind of covering the full spectrum of sound here, all 6 strings, thumb on the low E string, and then reaching for the high E string, I'm definitely going to use my thumb and my ring finger, okay? At that point, I'm really thinking of Travis style, my thumb being designated to the low strings, and my index, middle, and ring fingers being designated to the G, B, and high E strings. Okay, so that's an important grip, which is kind of my safety net. Okay, now jumping into line 2 of this 12-bar blues. This is going to be measures 5, 6, 7, and 8. They're going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and alright, and that'll get you to the 5 chord, B7. Let's break that down. Okay, taking a look at measure number 5. This is the first lick over A7, the 4 chord. It's gonna sound like this real slow. With the count, 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and a. Okay, so pretty simple there. We're gonna have the A string twice, 1 and then slide up. That's the 7th fret of the D, 6th fret of the G, and the 7th fret of the B string, that A13 chord. Okay, so. Alright, then we're going to take that chord shape down a whole step, and then we're going to play. Alright, so you still have that chord shape fretted. We're going to play the A string, the chord shape really short, back to the A string, then 3rd fret of the A to the 4th, and then 2nd fret of the D string, that E note. Okay, then the next measure, measure number 6, is going to sound like this. With the count, 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 and... Okay, so right out of the Eric Clapton playbook there, A string open, then on beat number 2, a dead stroke. 1 and 2. Alright, then we're going to slide up to the G string 6th fret, 5th fret of the B string follows that, then we're going to descend. 7th fret, high E string, 6th fret, 5th fret, as my picking hand goes ring finger, middle finger, index finger. Okay, running on that high E string. Okay, you put that together, we have. All right, then I'm going to play the B string, 8th fret, bend it twice. All right, then the next measure will begin with the resolve from that lick, both E strings open. Okay, measures 5 and 6 will sound like this. Alright, getting us into measure number 7. Okay, so now we're back to the 1 chord E7 for measure number 7. Now this is going to be a variation to the lick that we played at the beginning of the 12th bar. It's going to sound like this real slow. Okay, so that should be extremely familiar to you. Just a slight variation. We strike both of the E strings together, then go to the B string for 1 end. All right, then I'm going to slide up to the 4th fret of the G string, do my back and forth between the 4th fret of the G, 3rd fret of the B string, just like we did before. Then the rest of it is totally familiar, just resolving to that 2nd fret of the D string, that E note. Okay, then we're going to have a new lick to transition to the B7 chord shape. It's going to sound like this. All right, very, very Stevie Ray Vaughan influenced here. Hammer on to that 2nd fret of the D string, then follow up with another 2nd fret of the D string. So open to 2, 1 and, all right, then we're going to play 2 and so 0 to 2, 0, 2 on the A string now. 1 and 2 and then on the 3rd beat we're gonna play. All right, so hammering 0 to 1 on the A string and pulling off. All right, then 3rd fret low E string, then walk up to the B7. A string, 0, 1, and then to get into the next measure, 2nd fret of the A string, the root note of the B7 chord. All right, you put that full measure together and it sounds like this. Okay, now measures 7 and 8 together would sound like this. Get you to the 5 chord. Okay, playing along everything that we have so far, the intro turnaround and lines 1 and 2 of the 12 bar blues, the E7 to A7 and back to the E7 changes. It's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, and... Alright, now we're ready for line number 3 of the 12 bar, the B7 to A7 change. Okay, now tackling measures number 9 and 10, a measure of B7 and a measure of A7. If you're following along in your tab, this is the 3rd line of tablature for your 12 bar section. It's going to sound like this. Real slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, and... And with the count, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, let's break that down. Okay, taking a look at measure number 9 over B dominant 7 chord. Alright, we're going to start off on one end. We're plucking the root and then striking the 2nd fret of the G string and the open B string. with that B7 chord shape fretted. No need to have the pinky down, we're not even going to use that string. Alright, next we're going to slide from 2 to 4 on the D string, sliding up to that F sharp note. Alright, second fret of the G string, and then back to the 4th fret of the D string. Okay, then we're going to go to the B string 3rd fret with a slight bend, 4th fret of the G string, stacking your fingers, 4th fret of the D string. That's a really kind of cool advanced blues trick. Rather than running the scale, stacking your intervals. Alright, then follow that up with 2-4 on the G string. Okay, A to B. Okay, notice how these licks tend to resolve on the note that is the root note of the chord you're playing over top of. Okay, for B dominant 7. Okay, then the next measure will sound like this. Okay, another Stevie inspired lick here, sliding up to the 5th frets of the B and the high E string as you pluck the bass note A. That's followed by the 5th fret high E string, another A note by itself. So 1 N, then we're going to play 2 and the. Alright, so the bass note is going to be on all the numbered beats. Okay, so the 8th fret of the high E string with the bass note, 5th frets of the E and the B string for that first segment. So good to break things up into small, digestible sections. Alright, then on beat number 3, 8th fret of the B string with a slight bend. Alright, coupled with that bass note. Alright, then we're going to have E string 5-7. Alright, then on the 4th beat, we're going to have the bass note as we hammer and pull off 5-6-5 on the high E string, and then finally end it with an 8th fret of the B string bend in. Real slow, that entire lick. One more time. Okay, and if you've done our previous routines, then you've seen that lick before. Okay, put in measures 9 and 10 together, B7 to A7. 1, 2, 3, 4, and... Alright, now we're ready to move on to the final line of tablature for this 12-bar blues routine. Okay, jumping into our final segment now, an outro turnaround over a measure of E7 and a measure of B7, followed by a close-in lick. Real slow, it's going to sound like this. A 1, 2, 3, 4, and... Okay, let's break that down. Okay, so this outro turnaround is one that we're going to be revisiting. It's all about the rhythm. We're starting off on one end, striking both E strings, then just the high E string by itself. 1 N. Then on the second beat, sliding up to 5 and 5, A string and the B string. 1 and 2. Alright, then we're going to play high E string followed by the A string 5th fret. Notice that rhythm that's very syncopated. Alright, then we're going to play 4 and 5 together. Then go to the high E string, followed by the A string 4th fret by itself. Alright, drop the low note down 1 half step. At this point, I'll probably use my index finger for the bass note. Alright, then follow that up with nice short note there, 2 and 5, A string and B string. Put all that together, we have the entire measure over E7. Just like that. Okay, then we're going to do a walk up to the B7 chord. O3, O1, 2, or the notes E, G, A, B flat to B. All right, then when we get to the B7, bass note, treble notes, bass notes, treble notes. 2nd fret of the A string, and then we're just plucking the G string and the B string, and then repeat it. Okay, put those two measures together, we have. Okay, and use that as a counting exercise. 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and... You're ready for the close-in lick? And a very stylish way to end it. Okay, that close-in lick doesn't have any set rhythm to it. It's kind of has a ritardando, meaning it's slowing down to come to a more climactic close. So we have the low E string open. Then we're going to go up into the upper extension of the minor pentatonic scale in E minor, sliding up to the 5th fret of the B string. All right, we've done this before. We're going to slide on the G string 4 down to 2. All right, then we're going to follow that up with the open G string, D string 2nd fret, then the open D. That's your first segment. One more time. All right, then go to the A string 2nd fret, that B note. We're going to do a roll. 0, 1, 0, hammering and pulling off on that A string. To the G note, open A, back to the G with a little bend, and then resolve on the low E string open. Put all that together, we have. All right, next we're going to play an F9 chord. All right, that is 8, 7, then with a bar of the ring finger, 8, 8, 8 on the G, B, and high E string. Give that a nice slow strum, then take it down 1/2 step, and then add your pinky to the 9th fret of the high E string for just a little bit of extra flavor, dragging your thumb across in a sweeping motion, and then using your ring finger or your middle finger to pluck the last note inside that chord. All right, for a very stylish way to end this 12-bar blues routine. Okay, tying together our outro turnaround and that close-in lick, it's gonna sound like this. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and 2, and a 3, and 4, and 1. Okay, tremendous work everybody. You've completed routine number 10. Now I'm gonna play through the entire thing for you at a super slow tempo for you to jam along with over the coming weeks of practice. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a 1, 2 and a 3 and a 4 and 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and a 1, 2 and Alright, excellent work everybody. You just learned over a dozen licks and tricks for jamming over top of a 12-bar blues in the key of E. Now, practice those licks nice and slow, be patient, experiment with them, and then implement them into your own original work. I gotta thank my patrons, thank you so much for making all these lessons possible. I hope you're enjoying your extra resources. Thanks to you guys, I've got many lessons coming up, so keep checking back. Please subscribe, please share. This is Rob at Swift Guitar Lessons in Philadelphia, saying happy picking.